Assalamu alaikum, Tahir Qawwal here, leader of the Qawwali ensemble Fanna-Fi-Allah, as well as Ilahi SUFI Qawwali. And it's an honor to speak about the great Haji Inayat Ullah. It's been a great inspiration for us Qawwals, especially coming from a different country, coming from Canada and America, and not having grown up listening to the great ustads and the buzurgs of the golden era. And in our search to learn Qawwali, of course, we listened so much to the cassettes and records of Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and the Sabri brothers, and these were some of the main influences that back in our early 20s made us want to pursue this as a life path within Tasawwuf. And so these recordings were very important, since we didn't know where to access the ustads and how to get to the different the sama from where we were. And in those early days of traveling through India, at going to Khalid Sharif and Nizamuddin and Ajmer and listening to the Qawwali, but never feeling like we could find that true Qawwali that was at that same level that we heard from Ustad Nusrat and the Sabris. And it wasn't until we came to Pakpatan, Data Sahib, and in Lahore also, that we heard that Qawwali Khandan, that lineage of Qawwali, from that level of mastery that moved our hearts and carried the poetry of the great Sufis forward and inspired us so much. So in that whole journey of learning and being enthused by the great lineages of Qawwali as we learned, I remember the times when Amina and I were around Data Sahib, often connecting with other Qawwals, and there was the little Chilla Ahmad Bhaiya there, where late at night on Jumeirات there'd be a nice sama, and sitting on the street there, drinking gani karas and chai on the charpai, on the manji, talking to other of the great Qawwals. And it was that little shop by Haji Sahib where we would listen to some of the great recordings and get inspired there at the Merfield Recording Center. And that's, I think, the first time we heard like Ustad Hafiz Mirdad Khan Sahib and Ustad Aga Bashir Ahmad and Rashid Faridi, Majid Faridi, some of these great legends that have transformed us to hear Qawwali at that level, and tune into some of those, the older style of how the Qawwali was sung. Haji Inayatullah, he knew all those great Qawwals, so we felt like when we were sitting and drinking chai there, we could ask about this and slowly learn and understand the Khandan and the lineage of the Waba Qawwali especially. And he knew that my Ustad was Ustad Sher Ali Khan from Shermer, and he'd always put on some of the older Mehfil type Sama recordings of my Ustad, and we listened to it. And I remember how much the people that would sit in our little gathering there, our little gupshup, our little guftagu, how much they'd appreciate like the finer qualities of that sort of Qawwali. And I remember someone being able to imitate the voice of Ustad Mehr Ali, and just hearing all the subtleties in that expression of rag and the passion and the talafuz, the way that the poetry was expressed. And yeah, I remember Haji Sahib, how he'd like pull out like a cassette and be like, "Have you heard Ustad Rashid Faridi, Majid Faridi?" And I see this old cool looking cassette and be like, "What is this?" And he put it on and just be amazed at the level of Qawwali. And I think that's also there where we started connecting with Ustad Nasib Khan, who played tabla for Rashid Majid Sahib, as well as Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan in his early years, and also played for his father, Ustad Fateh Ali Khan, Mubarak Ali Khan Sahib, for a while there. So he was like this buzurg that had all this ancient wisdom on tabla playing. And I think he, been retired for a while. I don't even know how old Ustad Naseeb Khan Sahab was at that time, but I remember sitting there at the Mehfil Recording Center and with Amina and Naseeb Sahab telling us about those old days with such humility and such love, and coming back to our hotel and teaching Amina some tekas and yeah, just sitting with all these masters and learning later who these buzurgs were, the tabla player for such and such amazing Qawwali ensemble, or the second harmonium to so and so. At first they just seemed like these very kind, chachas that would serve us chai and be so excited to see our passion to be learning Qawwali and practicing Qawwali. And like I said, it wasn't until later that we really understood who these people were and felt so much love and so much respect. And still, when we go back to that gali there near Data Sahab and sit, and we get to meet all of our Qawwali family and feel inspired and feel drawn forward and appreciated for carrying it on in whatever humble way we do in this modern era. It's not an easy genre of classical training and a path, but we're blessed to have our ustads carrying us forward, and Amina's ustad, of course, Ustad Dildar Hussain, also carrying that wisdom from that era where Qawwali was at such a level, and inshallah we'll bring it back over time. And it's also a great pleasure to feel that all these recordings and all these precious gems of mastery are still being carried forward into the modern era by Haji Saab's son Hassanan Bhai, and it's been wonderful to keep in touch and see his YouTube channel grow and feel like these precious pieces of Qawwali wisdom, aren't just being swept away by the sands of time, that the new generation of Qawwali lovers can still find them and hear them in as best quality as possible, just as the same job we have here at the Sama School of Music and Tabaruk Records to keep carrying the music of the masters forwards and remastering and making these recordings and the biographies of these qawwals available to the current era. I think it's extremely important, especially because we just love it and feel it from our hearts. And it was such a journey for us to be able to find these lineages of masters and understand, who was connected to which ustad, and it's beautiful. It's something that this wisdom, I think, needs to continue to carry on. So it's an honor to have known Haji Saab and also be friends with his son Hassanan Bhai.